John was summoned the night before to turn up at the Crime Commission at 9 the next morning. He isn't being interviewed by a junior investigator, but by the New South Wales Crime Commissioner, Philip Bradley.
Are you ready to tell the truth, Mr.
Can I ask you for one request, please? Can I request something?
I want to know whether you are ready to tell the truth.
But can I make a request, please, sir?
What's your request?
Can I ring my brother?
Your brother?
Yes, sir. To the shop.
Why do you want to do that?
I want to ring him to get me a solicitor.
Yes, but I want to know the answer to the question, are you ready to tell the truth?
So I can feel comfortable to talk to my solicitor, please, sir?
Yes, I understand that you might want that now because you realise that you are in trouble. But I want to know the truth.
I will give you the answer when my...
No, you won't. You'll give me the answer now because I am directing you to, and if you decline to, you'll be committing another offence. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, I want to know the truth.
During the hearing, though John asked for a lawyer more than a dozen times, he didn't get one. It's hard to know if that's usual in the Crime Commission, but there is no right to have a lawyer.
Would you be surprised if there were a case where a person was brought to the Crime Commission, then questioned, and asked for a lawyer, and didn't get one?
I would think that would be very irregular.
Once again, Philip Bolton wasn't involved in the Newman case, but he explains how Crime Commission hearings often work.
The Crime Commission might know that somebody has committed offence A, but they're really interested in an offence B committed by somebody else. The person in the Crime Commission hearing room is told, we've got you on toast for this little offence, but what we really want is information about this big offence over here, and you're not the real target. That's signalling very clearly to the suspect that here's an opportunity for them to do business with the Crime Commission.
In this case, the Crime Commission knew John had tried to pay someone to put the heavy on Newman a year before the murder. Though nothing had come of John's attempt, John at first tried to deny it. But Commissioner Bradley told John the Commission had tapped telephones and knew he was lying.
And then when it's demonstrated to you that you've told lies, that you call for your solicitor.
But my request... Can I get a solicitor, please, sir?
Look, you've asked for a solicitor several times.
Yes.
When was the last time you spoke to your brother?
I just ring him then to go get the fish back from the market. Because if I leave in the truck too long, they're going to go bad. Please?
Yes, I know you want to speak to your brother, and I know you want to speak to a solicitor, but I want to know the answer to these questions.
But why don't you let me hear my brother?
You've already told lies to the Commission, so you've gone past that point. You've told lies. Now we want to know why.
Soon after this, the Crime Commission adjourned. John, still without legal advice, made a formal statement to the police who were waiting outside the hearing. John now said that Fung No had asked him to kill Newman. 2 years later, at the inquest into Newman's death, John became the star police witness.
Police are keeping a former employee at Cabramatta's Mekong Club under close wraps. In statements to police in 1996, his alleged local Vietnamese businessman, Fung No, asked him to kill Newman, his political rival.
Soon after John gave his evidence, Fung No was charged with Newman's murder. John got money, witness protection, and an undertaking he wouldn't be charged. But later, in a separate case, the two Crime Commission witnesses, John and Tony, got confused and contradicted the evidence they'd given in the Newman case. Tony admitted in court that the Crime Commission had sometimes told him John's evidence and had shouted at him until he'd agreed to it. Professor Don Gregg has studied the role of the Crime Commission in the Newman case.
Tony actually admitted that the story that John had made in statements was put to him in segments, and he was shouted at until he agreed that those were the facts of the case as he knew them.
How important was the evidence obtained in that way in the Newman case?
Well, it was fundamental. I mean, the whole case revolved around those two witnesses, and particularly Tony. And the corroboration between them was critical in persuading a jury that no should be convicted.
More recently, one of its most successful operations has raised the question of how far the Crime Commission should go to catch major criminals. Operation Mocha in 2005 led to the arrests of 3 of Australia's biggest drug dealers, Les Mara, Michael Hurley and Shane Hatfield.
It will become clear to you as the days roll on. This is a significant syndicate of major criminal proportion, and it has been smashed.
Operation Mocha was led by Mark Standen, now facing his own drug charges. In it, the Crime Commission organised the sale of 7 kilograms of cocaine, knowing the drugs would most likely end up in the community. Later this month, the High Court will consider whether or not that was legal.
To have an undercover police officer pretend that they wish to buy drugs is a necessary part of policing. But to buy drugs, then sell them, and then bank the money on behalf of the New South Wales Treasury is a very, very unusual tactic. That sort of investigative tool should only be applied if there are absolute checks and balances in place to ensure that people are not hurt or harmed by the dissemination of drugs.
As far as you know, are there any other areas or organisations where this kind of thing has been done in this way?
I've never heard of a case, apart from the one that's been made public, where the police have been given permission to sell drugs into the community.
What concerns me is that the probability, the expectation was that cocaine was never going to be recovered. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's never happened before.
Operation Mocha began in late 2004. According to Mark Standen, an informer codenamed Tom volunteered information about Tom's partner in drug dealing, the former surfer Shane Hatfield. Hatfield was bringing in 10 to 20 kilo shipments of cocaine with a former rugby league star, Les Mara, and another man, Michael Hurley. Tom said he still had 7 kilos of the last shipment buried in Sydney. Mark Standen came up with a plan to keep up Tom's cover and gather more evidence by having Tom sell it. Early in 2005, Tom took the Crime Commission to a national park near Sydney. The Crime Commission and Tom dug up the cocaine. 3 kilos were buried in one hole and 4 kilos in another. The cocaine was taken back to the Crime Commission.
Well, the cocaine in itself was evidence. They took that evidence, and certainly prior to the conclusion of any prosecutions, or the conclusion of all prosecutions arising out of it, they've decided to deal with it by supplying it to the street, which is very unusual.
The next day, the Crime Commission and state and federal police watched as Tom handed over 2 kilos of cocaine, collected $300,000 and later passed the money to Shane Hatfield. This tape was made by the Crime Commission. It shows Mark Standen's office and his safe where he stored the 7 kilos of cocaine in Operation Mocha. Here, Standen and others are packing a kilo of cocaine which Tom sold a few hours later at Rushcutters Bay. A district court judge has found that the Crime Commission acted improperly because it failed deliberately to manage the cocaine as either a federal or a state police exhibit.
So that makes me wonder what was supplied, because you have a commission officer, a Crime Commission officer, who's got it in his safe and it's not an exhibit, and the informant, they're involved in the packaging and then the supply. Now, I fully accept that it was part of the 7 kilos of cocaine because I don't really want to accept the alternative.
I think it's a pretty extraordinary thing for a state body to have drugs lying around, kilos of drugs lying around in their offices. There are good reasons not to do it. That's why there needs to be tight probity checks and accountability checks in all organisations that have the power to stretch the law.
All 7 kilos of cocaine were sold in Operation Mocha. Only 1 kilo was ever recovered by police in Victoria.
A supply to take place this evening at 9 p.m. and under the Authority of Control Operations Authority, and just going to remove a kilo of cocaine from the safe here.
Here, the Crime Commission in Standen's office is preparing another kilo package. It was always expected that all 7 kilos of cocaine, about 100,000 units, would most likely end up being sold to drug users in the community. One magistrate described it as jaw-dropping.
If it's 7 kilos of cocaine this time, why isn't it firearms next time? Where do you draw the line? Are we going to allow the Crime Commission to supply drugs and to supply firearms to the streets of Sydney?
Okay, time now is 8:39 p.m. At different locations.
This video, filmed later the same day, shows the Crime Commission handing the kilo of cocaine to Tom to sell in Maroubra.
It's Tom, on behalf of Inspector Farrell, Mr. Standen. This is the 1 kilo of drug.
According to a judge, the federal police couldn't have authorised an operation like this because it was unlikely the drugs would be recovered. But the Crime Commission says its wide powers could authorise Operation Mocha, and the New South Wales Court of Appeal has agreed. In court, the Crime Commission argued that its powers were even wide enough to let it, if need be, participate in an armed robbery.